After the groundbreaking success of Ocarina of Time in 1998, it's unsurprising that Nintendo higher-ups wanted a sequel to keep the momentum going. But with the hardware that would ultimately become the GameCube looming around the corner, Eiji Aonuma and his team were given a strict deadline of only 1 year to craft the game's N64 successor. What emerged was inexplicably one of the most profound and iconic video games of all time. Building upon both the mask and time mechanics that already existed in Ocarina, while simultaneously tackling serious themes like death and grief in an indirect way that makes the game uniquely and powerfully disturbing. But what about when you don't play through the game as it was intended? What happens when you use glitches to force Link through solid walls, collect items out of their intended order, and delete the imposing 3-day clock altogether? Let's find out. It's time to break The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. This video is sponsored by OnSlice, a fashion brand with a focus on premium eyewear and a unique, futuristic aesthetic that isn't afraid to stand out. Turns out, the founders of OnSlice are big fans of the Legend of Zelda series, so when they found out that a glitch video for Majora's Mask was in the works, they asked to help fund it. And I'm always down for featuring sponsorships from companies that actually know and appreciate the games we're talking about. They sent me a few different pairs of glasses to show off: Mecha Owl in red, which is their top seller, Woody Owl in anti-blue light lenses, and Legacy Wolf for those that are interested in a more traditional, minimalist look. On their website, you can mix and match individual lenses with individual frames to suit your taste, and OnSlice even have prescription options should you need or want those. Use my code Phobia10 for 10% off at on-slice.com or by clicking the link in the pinned comment or video description. They're also doing a buy 2 get 1 free promotion currently, which does stack with my coupon code, so act fast if you want to take advantage of both at the same time. And of course, thanks to OnSlice for helping to make this glitch video possible. When we start a new game, the Skull Kid is already possessed by Majora's Mask and will get ambushed by him in the woods just outside Termina. The Skull Kid snatches both the Ocarina of Time and Epona from Link, leaving us to chase him down on foot. Soon enough, Link is cornered and transformed into a Deku Scrub, meaning that now we can't even use our sword. Skull Kid leaves, and in the process of chasing him down, we stumble into Clock Town and meet the enigmatic Happy Mask Salesman. He explains that he will help us return to being human, but we first have to get the Ocarina of Time back from the Skull Kid. He also warns us in a roundabout way that we only have 3 days before Majora's Mask causes the moon to crash into the earth, wiping out everybody. Lovely! We're off to a great start. The Skull Kid is waiting for us at the top of the clock tower in the center of town, which doesn't open until the night of the 3rd day. So, like it or not, we're stuck as a Deku for 3 days. Normally, you're meant to spend that time on a long side quest in which you play hide and seek with the kids in town to learn their secret code and gain access to their clubhouse, meet an astronomer to use his telescope to find the Skull Kid, collect the Moon's Tear from the ground outside, and give the Moon's Tear to another Deku Scrub in town in exchange for the use of his Deku Flower, and then use that flower to reach the entrance to the clock tower on the night of the 3rd day. We're not doing any of that. Turns out, there's a ramp on the left side of the clock tower platform that Link can climb up as human, but is supposed to be impossible to reach as a Deku Scrub. However, if we turn 90 degrees so that our back is to the tower, hold Z to target, backflip, then immediately switch to holding right on the analog stick, release Z, and press it again to retarget, the game will sometimes spin Link 90 degrees to the right, granting us just enough additional height to catch the edge of the platform and pull ourselves up, skipping the entire first cycle questline altogether. Now that we know how to reach the clock tower platform 3 days earlier than we're supposed to, we could just stand here and wait, but I'd rather make use of the time we'll spend waiting to prepare for future cycles. We collect the missing Stray Fairy and reunite it with the rest of the fairies in North Clocktown to be awarded with Magic by the Great Fairy. Magic is going to have a ton of uses over the course of this playthrough, but it also allows us to shoot bubbles while in Deku form, a requirement to knock the Ocarina of Time out of the Skull Kid's hands when we meet him at the top of the clock tower on the 3rd day. Next, we need to collect a total of 200 rupees to deposit in the bank in order to obtain the adult's wallet, and we currently have 3.
Like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
Problem is, there are very few opportunities to collect money in town during first cycle. If we try to leave town, we're always stopped by one of the guards who say it's too dangerous for a Deku to travel alone. This is meant to keep the player trapped within Clock Town for the first 3 days of their playthrough, but I don't get along with authority very well. Instead, we go to East Clock Town, where the guard here is positioned ever so slightly off-center of the doorway he's meant to block. By moving to this guard's right arm, targeting and backwalking, it's possible to gain enough speed to force our way past the guard's hitbox and access all of Termina as a Deku even during first cycle. Now that we have access to Termina Field, we can farm 200 rupees in no time from the multitude of grass patches outside. Then on the night of the 3rd day, perform a twisted backflip to reach the clock tower, climbing the stairs and encountering the Skull Kid just before the moon crashes. We use the magic given to us by the Great Fairy to shoot the Skull Kid with a bubble, knocking the ocarina out of his hands, and collect it from the ground to play the Song of Time and return to the dawn of the 1st day. Now that we have our ocarina, the Happy Mask Salesman fulfills his promise, teaching us the Song of Healing, which has the power to trap curses within masks. This not only returns Link to human form, but also awards us with the Deku Mask, meaning we can now go in and out of Deku form at will. Unfortunately, going back in time has done absolutely nothing to change the future. The moon is still going to fall in 3 days, and the clock is ticking. Normally, the first direction a player would go is south to enter Southern Swamp, perform a long sequence of events to enter Deku Palace, and then make their way into Woodfall as the first dungeon of the game. Completing all 4 dungeons in this game is going to be a requirement in this video, but with the glitches at our disposal, we can gain major advantages by completing those 4 dungeons outside of their intended order. As it happens, the best one to start with is Great Bay, found beyond the beach to the west, but we can't access the beach until we collect a few items. Firstly, now that we're human, we withdraw all our money from the bank, then visit the bomb shop on any day to buy a bomb bag, bombs, and bomb chews. I'm sure I don't have to tell you how important bombs are for performing glitches in Zelda games, and the fact that they are obtainable so early in Majora's Mask is one of the things that makes doing a glitch playthrough of this game so fascinating. We can capitalize on this further by going to North Clock Town on the night of the 1st day to save the old lady from getting robbed by Sakon. She rewards us with the Blast Mask, which, if you're curious, can indeed be used to trigger glitches like bomb hovering. Now that we've saved the granny, when we return to the bomb shop, the big bomb bag will be available for purchase, expanding the amount of bombs and chews we can hold to 30. The Blast Mask and big bomb bag are both optional items for this playthrough, but we'll be using a ton of bombs, so I would encourage picking up both. Next, we need to make our way north to Goron Village, but we're soon blocked by this wall of ice that freezes and deals damage to Link if we get too close. We're supposed to clear the way by shooting down this stalactite found above with a bow, but we don't have the bow, so we'll have to get creative instead. In my glitch video for Ocarina, we were able to sequence break Dodongo's cavern to collect the bomb bag early by dropping a bomb chew just before it exploded, rolling into it, and then holding shield and backflipping to have the impact of the explosion push Link backwards at incredible speed in a glitch known as a mega flip. That same glitch works in Majora as well, but due to changes made between Ocarina and this game, it's actually much easier this time around. In Ocarina of Time, any function that sets Link's current speed replaces his previous speed. That's why things like mega flips have such a tight window for execution. This is not true in Majora's Mask. That's why when you see professional players play Majora's Mask, they almost always roll at the edge platforms just as Link jumps. This adds the additional speed of the roll to Link's jump, which actually makes him jump a tiny bit further. A trick that does not work in Ocarina, since speed works fundamentally differently in that game. Because modified speed can stack in Majora's Mask, we simply shield drop a bomb on the ground in front of the wall of ice, hold both shield and Z target, then backflip just as it explodes, releasing the analog stick back to neutral as soon as the backflip begins. This will cause the explosion to knock us backward with incredible speed, clipping us through the ice wall and granting early access to Snowhead without the need to first collect the bow. For all intents and purposes, this is a type of Mega Flip, but the easier Majora's Mask version is referred to as a Recoil Flip to help distinguish it from its much harder Ocarina of Time cousin. We make our way up the mountain to reach Goron Village, talk to the owl here, who is far less annoying than the one in Ocarina, and then jump across the invisible platforms he marks with feathers to enter the cave and collect the Lens of Truth. We then return back the way we came and use the Lens of Truth to reveal the invisible ladders on the wall leading up to the hot spring where we find the spirit of Darmani. We play the Song of Healing here to collect the Goron mask, meaning we now have 2 transformation masks before even entering a single dungeon. We don't have what we need to enter Snowhead yet, so instead of proceeding further toward the temple, we warp back to Clock Town by playing the Song of Time to return to the first day and teleport to the center of town. Whenever we go back in time in Majora's Mask, we lose all our consumables, but by going to East Clock Town, we can jump across the signage to reach a chest with a silver rupee each time we reset to the first day, which is enough to refill supplies from the shops in West Clock Town. Before heading out again, we return to East Clock Town, where the Bomber Kid blocks the entrance to the observatory. We don't have the password, but we can skip getting it now that we're no longer stuck as a Deku. We can simply flip over the collision of the kid, skipping the Bomber side quests completely. At the observatory, we use the telescope to watch the moon's tear fall, then step outside to collect it. Not because we need the moon's tear, but because we need some item to exist in its inventory slot in order to set up a future glitch. Just hold on to it for now, we'll get there soon enough. Next, we make our way to Southern Swamp, which Goron Link can traverse freely without the need to swim or use lily pads. Now that we're no longer stuck as a Deku, we can find Komei in the Woods of Mystery and talk to her in human form to learn that she needs a red potion. We take this information back to her sister Kotake at the potion shop, who gives us the aforementioned item. But we won't be taking this red potion to Komei. Instead, we immediately leave the swamp and go east to Ikana Canyon. We're meant to use Epona to jump these fences, but we can skip getting her by using the Goron mask and a bomb. By placing a bomb on the ground and then switching to Goron form, curling up by holding A and pressing B, Goron Link will fly into the air before slamming the ground. If we release all buttons at the peak of the slam, Goron Link will exit the curl, becoming vulnerable to damage just as the bomb explodes, knocking us over the fence in a glitch known simply as a Goron Jump. We Goron Jump all the way to this circle of stones, where we use the Lens of Truth to find Shiro, an invisible NPC who will give us the stone mask in exchange for a red potion, something that we just so happen to have in our inventory at this very moment. Huh, who would have thought? With the stone mask, we go to the beach to the west, skip over the barrier here with another Goron Jump, and meet Mikau, the fatally injured Zora. We play the Song of Healing for him to collect the Zora mask, our third and final transformation mask for this playthrough. Arguably the most important one, since it gives us the ability to explore underwater.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me.
We make our way to Pirate's Fortress, where we can use the stone mask to appear invisible to the guards, allowing us to explore this area without ever worrying about getting caught. At this point, the player is meant to press the switch with a Goron Slam, which opens the gate to the sewers, but we can skip that section entirely by bomb hovering from this platform to the one straight across from us. I went over the infinite sword glitch and bomb hovering extensively in my glitch video for Ocarina, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them again here. First, we place a bomb on the ground, crouch stab while picking it up to get ISG, then backflip while shielding and dropping bomb chews to hover. If you're familiar with the process of hovering in Ocarina, there's nothing new for you to learn here, though do keep in mind that for Majora's Mask, you can resort to the Blast Mask as a method to hover if you ever run out of bombs or chews, which is never a bad thing. Once we're inside the fortress proper, we can use our detection immunity granted by the Stone Mask to skip past the guards, that is, until we reach the chamber with the Hookshot, where, for whatever reason, the guards surrounding the chest can see Link despite the Stone Mask, even going so far as to give us a unique dialogue if we get caught.
Cool. Great job, man. I mean, I thought you were really retarded.
We don't have the bow to knock down the hornet's nest like in a normal playthrough, but surprisingly, a Deku bubble works just as well as an arrow, meaning we can clear out the pirates and collect the hookshot in the intended manner. Putting it to immediate use, we hookshot into the tank of water found in this room, and sink down to the bottom with the Zora mask to place the Zora egg in our empty bottle that once held the red potion. In order to enter Great Bay Temple, you're supposed to track down and bottle a whopping 7 of these Zora eggs, and trust me, if you've never done that before,
It's awful.
We return to the sea, then swim to the Marine Research Lab, the place we're supposed to take the Zora eggs once we have all 7. This next glitch is known as Equip Swap, a technique that exists in both N64 Zelda games, but one that I never had an opportunity to discuss in Ocarina. The glitch works by cycling from another screen in the pause menu, moving the cursor onto an item, and pressing the C button simultaneously. On the first frame, it becomes possible to equip something. Because of this one frame input window, there are only 2 item slots that have practical use for this purpose. The top right item slot when cycling from the map screen, and the top left item slot for when cycling from the masks screen. The top left item in the pause menu is the ocarina, something we definitely do not want to duplicate on top of, so that's immediately out. The right item can be one of an assortment of trade items, and is probably the least important slot in the entire item inventory. So as long as there's something in the slot, like say, I don't know, a Moon's Tear, it will be the perfect candidate to serve as our scapegoat. First, we start by moving the cursor on top of the item we want to duplicate, in this case, our Zora egg. Then press the R button to cycle over to the map screen without moving the cursor. Next, press Z to cycle back to the item screen, wait until the frame just before the cursor reappears, and press both diagonal up left on the analog stick and one of the C buttons at the same time on the same frame. If you do it correctly, the game will think you are still highlighting the Zora egg from before you cycled the pause screens over, but also knows that you just placed the cursor on a new item. After you perform the glitch once and empty the duplicated Zora egg into the tank, you'll have an empty bottle in place of where the Moon's Tear once was, but that changes nothing with the glitch. Repeat the same steps from before, and you'll duplicate over the empty bottle with a new egg as many times as you need. Trading the Moon's Tear for a free bottle? I'd say that's not a bad deal.
I'll make that deal. How about you, Udovich? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
As powerful as this glitch is, it's also extremely difficult to pull off consistently. If you time the analog stick up left input and the C button press too early, nothing will happen. If you time them too late, you'll equip the Moon's Tear properly, failing the glitch. And if you don't tilt the analog stick and press the C button at the same exact time, you'll also fail the glitch. In other words, your attempts to duplicate the Zora egg are probably going to look like this. As you can see, I'm really good at it. We need 7 Zora eggs total to match the 7 notes in New Wave Bossa Nova, so that means that you'll need to pull off Equip Swap at least 6 times here, though this number can be reduced by 1 for every additional authentic Zora egg you choose to collect in your playthrough. We scraped together 7 eggs total, and dropped them in the tank in the Marine Research Lab to learn New Wave Bossa Nova, the required song to access our first dungeon of the playthrough, Great Bay Temple. You may be wondering why I chose for our first dungeon of this playthrough to be one of the most difficult and confusing of the 4. And the answer is, because we're going to skip all of it. As it turns out, we can reach the boss of Great Bay Temple from the starting room of the dungeon with no need to open a single door. To start, we climb up the ramp and move Link to this first torch on the right. We hold Z and backwalk to fall off the edge of the platform, then pull ourselves back up, releasing the Z button and holding it again in the process, which causes Link to pivot 180 degrees automatically without moving his feet. Next, we pull out a bomb and drop it here, immediately switching to the Zora mask, then slowly walk to the right toward the torch until Zora Link also falls off the platform. Assuming you place the bomb in the correct place, the combination of the edge of the platform in front of us, the collision of the torch behind us, and the bomb below us means that Zora Link has nowhere to hang and will instead get pushed through the floor, clipping out of bounds. We are now standing inside of the ramp at the temple entrance, but everything you'll see on the inside will be completely black. If we utilize third-party tools to enable a collision viewer, you'll see that the floor we're standing on doesn't extend much further than where we are now, so you'll need to watch your step to avoid falling into the pit below. We take a look in first-person view, down and to the left of where we're standing, to see a green square which represents a loading zone. That green square is the loading zone to the boss room, meaning that if we can touch it, we skip the entire temple. We take Link to the far corner of the ramp we're standing inside of, point his back in that general direction, and perform another recoil flip here to span the distance. We touch the loading zone while falling, warping directly into the boss room and skipping the entirety of Great Bay Temple in a single glitch. As for the boss fight itself, we don't have the bow, but a hookshot can be used to stun the boss just as well, and then swimming into it with Zora Barrier should take it out no problem. We collect our first of 4 boss remains, along with a heart container. 1 down, 3 to go. The next dungeon of the 4 we'll be targeting is Woodfall, but we're not going straight there just yet. We've been all around Terminal already, but I haven't mentioned the owl statues even once. In fact, every owl statue in the game is still inactive for us right now, and that was all intended to set up this next glitch. If you don't already know, the way owl statues are supposed to function is that you hit them with a melee weapon and they open their wings, activating as a fast travel point once you learn the Song of Soaring. So with that being the case, there shouldn't be a reason to avoid activating every owl statue you come across, and there wouldn't be if the game developers didn't overlook a simple yet monumental mistake. Back in Clocktown, there is a single owl statue to the left of the clock tower, facing the entrance to West Clocktown. Hitting this statue would activate it, allowing us to warp back to Clocktown whenever we like, but we aren't going to do that. Instead, we go to West Clocktown, turn and face the loading zone, where we can see that same statue off in the distance. Except, as it turns out, that is not the same statue. In case you didn't notice, this is an old game, and one of the ways Nintendo optimized it to keep it running smoothly on N64 was to break the game world down into lots of smaller individual maps. Right now, we're in West Clocktown, but as far as the game's concerned, East, West, North, and South Clocktown are all completely independent maps that have nothing to do with one another. When we leave one part of town, that map gets completely unloaded, and the new part of town gets loaded in to replace it. In other words, what we're seeing when we look through the loading zone of West Clocktown is not the center of town. It's an optical illusion that exists to make us think these independent maps are physically connected. If I use dev tools to make Link fly over the loading zone, this becomes a lot more obvious. As you can see, the rest of town does not exist when West Clocktown is loaded, and therefore, this owl statue we're currently standing next to is a fake. It was never meant to be reached by the player, and it has no warp associated with it. Which begs the question, if we were to use glitches to activate this owl statue and warp, where would we go? The problem is, this fake statue in West Clocktown, commonly referred to as the Hidden Owl, exists on the opposite side of a loading zone, which completely spans the doorway. We can't get to it on foot, and owl statues can't be activated with ranged attacks, so we can't use the bow or hookshot either. What I'm about to show you is legitimately one of my favorite glitches in all of Majora's Mask. The solution here is wild. First, we equip both the hookshot and Deku sticks while standing in West Clocktown at night, when the torch found here will be lit. We press the hookshot button and then return from first-person view with A so that the item remains in Link's hands. Next, we walk near an NPC, hold shield, then press A and the Deku stick button at the same time. If done correctly, the sound effect will play as though Link took out a Deku stick, but his hands will still be holding the hookshot when we exit the dialogue. Now, when we press the Deku stick button again, Link will take out a glitched Deku stick, and here's why that matters. When you pull a Deku stick normally and light it on fire, it's programmed to hold the flame for a set amount of time, and then to burn out, in which the game subtracts from the Deku stick's length every frame until the stick has a length of 0, at which point, Link puts away the stick automatically. Action Swap gives us a Deku stick that was equipped improperly, meaning it already has a length value of 0. So, if we light this glitched Deku stick on fire using a torch, the game will begin to subtract its length from 0 until it reaches 0, a number it'll never reach. This means the Deku stick in our hands is now growing in length backwards forever. And so trust me when I say that if you've gotten this glitch to activate, you'll probably notice. By turning our back to the Hidden Owl and crouch stabbing with this infinitely long Deku stick, we can reach through the loading zone of West Clocktown, strike and activate the Hidden Owl statue that was never meant to be activated, and set our game up for some extremely glitchy behavior. Oh, and as for the crazy Deku stick, once the Hidden Owl statue has been activated, you can cancel out of Action Swap at any time by simply swinging your sword. Our next goal is to finally collect the Song of Soaring so we can make use of the glitch warping we've now set up. To get it, we return to Southern Swamp, now equipped with the ability to clear the big octos out of our way, and proceed into Deku Palace to learn the Sonata of Awakening, the required song to open Woodfall Temple. Just beyond the palace, we find a stone obelisk with the Song of Soaring engraved on it, and with that, we have everything we need to perform the glitch known as Index Warp. The way Song of Soaring is supposed to work is that after you play the song, a map opens showing the locations of every owl statue you've activated, at which point you can move the cursor to select one, then press A to fast travel to it. If you haven't activated any statues and try to play the song, the map won't open at all. But if the one and only owl statue you've activated in your playthrough is the hidden owl in West Clocktown, a glitched version of the map will open with no warp points listed, since the hidden owl is not a warp point. If you move the cursor on this screen in any direction, the game will immediately crash. But just because we can't move the cursor doesn't mean that we can't use it to warp. By first opening the pause menu and cycling to our map screen, we can move the cursor to a desired location, close the map, then when we play the Song of Soaring again, the cursor's default placement on the warp screen will be offset by the last cursor position from the map screen. This is where the name Index Warp comes from. The cursor value used on the map screen for each location in Termina is not the same as the number assigned to each area by the Song of Soaring, so we need to refer to this index reverse engineered by speedrunners to determine which area we need to highlight on the map in order to end up where we actually want to go. Thanks to Index Warp, we're going to blast through these last 3 dungeons in record time. We're already standing near the entrance to Woodfall, but naturally, we can't go in without getting a bottle of milk.
Oh! Somebody! Oh! He needs some milk!
From here, we go to the Goron racetrack in order to buy a bottle of milk for 50 rupees. One of the few ways to get milk in this game without access to a bonus song. Having this item in our inventory is a requirement to trigger a glitch in Woodfall Temple, a dungeon we are finally ready to traverse. But equipped with the Hookshot early, our path through this dungeon is going to be radically different from normal. After reaching the central room of Woodfall, we aim the Hookshot at the upper edge of this burning torch to the right, something meant to be used to solve a later puzzle, and not a place the player was ever meant to stand. From here we can jump across the gap to reach this upper platform, and press the switch to spawn shortcut ladders, skipping over the entire first half of the dungeon. Next we take the door to the right to enter this room from the upper platform, and follow that platform to the right to pass through another door and trigger a brief mini-boss battle, which rewards us with the bow, a required item for this playthrough, and one we'll be making use of often. Next we return to the previous room, shoot through the fire we hookshot earlier, and light the torch in the middle of the wooden platform below, causing it to rise and become a spinning platform. Then shoot another arrow from that spinning platform in order to light this torch in the corner of the room, unlocking the door to the next room. At this point, we're ready to head straight for the final boss of Woodfall, but as you may have noticed, we're missing several dungeon items, namely the boss key. So in order to pass through the door, we're going to need to do something to deactivate Link's collision. As difficult as that may sound, ironically, we already have all the items needed to make this glitch possible. The Hookshot we got early by skipping into Pirate's Fortress, the bottle of milk we purchased from the Goron racetrack, and an empty bottle, which still exists in our upper right item slot from when we duplicated Zora eggs at Great Bay. This next glitch was discovered fairly recently. This one is a bit difficult to wrap your head around, so I'm first going to show how it works here in Clocktown, so you get to see a few different examples of it being used. To start, we equip all 3 previously mentioned items, the Hookshot, a full bottle of milk, and an empty bottle, and then face anything hookshotable. Next, we press the Hookshot C button to aim with it, and begin holding Z to move the camera over Link's shoulder. From this position, we do not press Hookshot again. Instead, we press the C button that contains the full bottle of milk, drinking it down to half milk, while an empty bottle sits idle on an alternate C button. Full milk is the only instance in Majora's Mask in which the player can drink something from a bottle without being left with an empty bottle equipped afterward. Except, we will have an empty bottle equipped afterward on a different C button. And because both of those things are true at the same time, the game suddenly gets really confused about what is supposed to be in Link's hands when the animation ends. Is it the Hookshot? Or is it an empty bottle? It tries to do both, but fails to do either. And so at this point, the game considers the Hookshot to be both in Link's hands and not in Link's hands simultaneously. After priming this confused and glitchy state, no matter where in the room we decide to go, The next time we press the Hookshot button, the game will immediately snap Link to the destination we were aiming when we drank the milk, thus the name, Remote Hookshot. It also leaves the graphic of the Hookshot chain attached to Link and the object he grappled, but this is only a visual bug and doesn't have any practical use besides looking silly. We could prime that glitch here in this room in Woodfall, and remote hookshot ourselves to this torch here near the boss door, but in this case, that's not what we want. We don't want to be sent to the torch, we want to be sent forward, past the torch, and through the boss door. So after priming remote hookshot, we need to stack another glitch on top. If we trigger this correctly, we will lose control of Link and be sent forward with no collision and no way to change our direction. So it's extremely important that we position Link behind the torch in this room and aim the hookshot at the torch, but also at the boss door directly behind it, so that he's pushed into the loading zone of the boss room and not into a void out of bounds. With all three items equipped, we press the hookshot button to aim with it, then while holding Z to move the camera over Link's shoulder, we drink the full milk down to half milk to prime remote hookshot. Next, without moving Link's feet, we press hookshot again. Then, immediately pause the game and equip another item on top of it. Then unpause to allow the hookshot animation to play out. This causes Link to get stuck inside of the torch, unable to walk in any direction, much like when floating in the air during a bomb hover. Finally, we pause one final time, re-equip the hookshot, and press the hookshot C button again, passing straight through the boss door. Woodfall boss key skipped. From here the rest is obvious. We obliterate Adolwa to collect his remains, along with another heart container. 2 bosses down, 2 left to go. Our next target is Snowhead Temple, and considering that we've already been there once so far in this video, reaching it again wouldn't be difficult even without access to index warping. But before we do that, at least in my playthrough, we're getting dangerously close to the moon crashing. Obviously, we can reset back to the first day at any time by playing the Song of Time, but being close to a moon crash is a perfect excuse to showcase another glitch. We warp back to Clocktown by highlighting Woodfall on the map, and then playing the Song of Soaring to index warp to the appropriate place. Next, we go to East Clocktown and backflip over the kid once again to skip getting the bomber code, going all the way to the observatory at the end. By looking through the telescope during final hours and waiting for the clock to count down, we can press B to back out of the telescope on the same frame the clock hits 0. This tricks the game into thinking the moon has already crashed, but skips the cutscene that would reset us back to our previous save. In other words, we are now technically in the morning of day 4, a day that was never supposed to exist. During 4th day, there is no clock shown at the bottom of the screen, and the moon is a tiny unmoving dot in the sky, much smaller than even the morning of day 1. Any NPC that moves based on a predetermined schedule is non-existent during this glitch, since the developers never programmed something for them to do on a non-existent day. This means that Clocktown especially becomes a ghost town, with most of its residents missing. Although time does continue to pass during 4th day, after it undergoes a full 24-hour cycle, we get a glitched version of the Dawn of a New Day text that is supposed to only be shown after defeating the final boss, and then the time of day loops back to the beginning of 4th day again. By activating the 4th day glitch, we have given ourselves unlimited time to complete the rest of the game. If you decide to mess around with this, don't worry, this glitch is not permanent. Playing the Song of Time will undo the 4th day glitch and return us back to the beginning of day 1, just as it always does, restoring all of the missing in-game characters as well. Before returning to the mountains, we first go back to the Gorman track to buy another bottle of milk. We'll need milk again for Snowhead, which can easily be reached through index warping. Unfortunately, we soon hit a wall. Or a wind, I guess I should say. Snowhead is made inaccessible by this rhythmic gust of wind that pushes Link back and away from the entrance to the temple. And I know what you might be thinking, but no amount of fast maneuvering or skilled play will allow us to reach the dungeon entrance through the wind. It will always blow you off into the pit below. I know it looks doable, but even speedrunners can't make this happen, so you're just gonna have to trust me when I say it's impossible. The intended way to deal with this obstacle is to do a somewhat lengthy side quest in Goron Village to learn the Goron Lullaby, and play it here in Goron form to stop the wind blowing completely. But I don't want to go out of my way to do all that. We may not be able to disable the wind itself, but we can disable Link's ability to move. The exploit we're going to take advantage of here is a convenient side effect of the remote hookshot glitch we used to pass through the boss door of Woodfall. The beginning setup is the same. First we equip the hookshot, the bottle of milk, and an empty bottle all at the same time. Remember, remote hookshot is only possible if these exact 3 items are equipped together on the C buttons. Next we hookshot ourselves to this wooden flagpole at the start of the path, and then very quickly, before the wind can blow us backward, hold Z and press the C button with the hookshot to aim with it over Link's shoulder. Then, press the C button with the milk to drink it down to half milk. After the drinking cutscene ends, we press the hookshot button again to initiate the remote hookshot state, then immediately pause the game and equip another item over the hookshot so that it fails to complete, and we are stuck in the unmoving bomb hover-like state that goes hand in hand with this glitch. At this point, when we were in Woodfall Temple, we paused the game to re-equip the hookshot and pressed the button again to launch us forward through the boss door and into the loading zone of Adolwa's boss room. We could do that again here as well, but you may notice, in our current state, not only can we not move Link ourselves, neither can the wind. In fact, the only action that can move Link right now is an attack, which inches him forward ever so slightly. We can capitalize on this further by switching to Zora form, which has the longest step forward on its basic B attack. Taking advantage of that fact, we can spam the B button over and over to slowly work our way up the path to Snowhead as the wind is blowing without it affecting us at all. Once we touch the loading zone at the entrance to Snowhead Temple, remote hookshot gets disabled, allowing us to move as normal once again, safely inside where the wind is no longer even a factor. Goron Lullaby skipped. Unlike the previous dungeons we've completed so far, the boss of Snowhead is found at the very top. You might think that would make reaching it difficult, but it's honestly surprising how much of this dungeon can be skipped if you have the hookshot. First, we make our way to the central room with the giant pillar. We approach the red-bordered frozen door with the burning torches on either side of it, align Link's head with this dark splotch in the wall in the corner, hold Z, and then perform a full-length backflip. This somewhat precise position we land in allows us to aim with the hookshot at a torch we can barely see up and to the left, skipping the first half of the temple, and an exploit known colloquially as Pixel Shot. From this upper platform, we pass through a door to fight the dungeon's mini-boss and obtain the fire arrows, an item that could actually be skipped were it not for the fact that the boss of Snowhead Temple is encased in ice. After returning to the central pillar room once again, we walk down the length of the wooden platform and turn 180 degrees to hookshot another torch to another platform 1 floor higher. Man, they really did not expect us to have the hookshot this early, huh? Our next target is the cage tunnel filled with snowballs, up and to the right. We can get there right away by bomb hovering from where we are now, much like we did in Pirate's Fortress earlier in the video. The snowballs are destroyed by bombs, so we even clear them out in the process. We are now standing on the highest floor in the dungeon, with the boss door directly in front of us. We reach it by jumping the gap in Goron form, and then make sure to stop rolling before destroying any of the icy stalagmites just in front of the door. As usual, we don't have the boss key, but provided the stalagmites are still in the way, we can simply switch to Goron form, face away from the right corner of the door, hold Z, and backwalk, and I'm genuinely speechless. I can't say I've ever skipped a required item in a game by simply playing the game normally. We thaw out the frozen boss with a fire arrow, and then take it out easily by shooting it from the safe spot near the door. This is by far the easiest boss in Majora, and with him gone, we earn another heart container, and our third boss remains. Only one left. The only dungeon remaining is Stone Tower Temple, and if you're familiar with Majora's Mask, it should be no surprise as to why we're saving this one for last. Normally, reaching the entrance to Stone Tower requires the Garo Mask, Captain's Hat, Song of Storms, Gibdo Mask, Mirror Shield, and Elegy of Emptiness. But we're going to be skipping all 6 of those pickups through the use of glitches. Sorry, Ben. Better luck next time. There just so happens to be an owl statue at the very top of Stone Tower, and although we've never been there before, that doesn't matter when we have the ability to index warp. But before going there, we need to prepare by collecting another bottle item. Not milk this time, but spring water. We can easily pick that up for free by visiting either Southern Swamp or one of the hot springs here in Snowhead. Hot spring water would also get the job done, but it's likely going to cool before we get the opportunity to use it, which is fine either way. Next, we open the map and highlight Goron Village before backing out to play the Song of Soaring, which positions the cursor over Stone Tower, allowing us to teleport directly there, skipping all of Ikana Canyon and the stack of items normally required to traverse it. The entrance to the temple is right in front of us, but we're immediately faced with a problem. The player is supposed to play the Elegy of Emptiness here to hold down these 3 switches, which move 3 large stone blocks into position to form a bridge. Without that song, we have no way of forming the bridge, so we would have to use something like bomb hovering to make our way across this massive gap, which could definitely be done, but there's actually a much easier exploit we can take advantage of here. First, we break the pot on the far right of the owl statue here at Stone Tower. This pot always contains a fairy each time you reload the area, and we catch it in our secondary bottle. With the fairy still in Link's hands, we move our way onto the switch on the right, which moves the stone block that would have made the first part of the bridge. If we move off the switch, the block will immediately move back to its original position. But by holding Z, holding R, and then immediately pressing the C button with the bottled fairy on the first frame that Link begins shielding, we trigger the cutscene of the fairy being freed from the bottle, but the cutscene gets stuck rather than playing out properly. This is a glitch known as time stop, and as long as it's active, new cutscenes can't begin playing. That means that the stone block will be frozen in place even if we step off of the switch. So next, we jump directly onto the stone block, then deactivate the time stop glitch by pressing C up, allowing cutscenes to play once more, and for the stone block to move back to its original position, taking us along with it, all the way to the opposite side. Elegy of Emptiness skipped, and Stone Tower Temple now accessible, no bomb hovering required. From the starting room, we take the door to the right and become immediately face to face with a sunblock that we're supposed to shine light onto in order to clear. This one is actually really funny, but the programmers made a mistake and accidentally used the same collision type for light as they did spring water. By bringing a bottle of spring water and dumping it here on this block, the game mistakenly thinks of spring water as a light source, and so the block gets properly cleared, playing the cutscene associated with it and everything. Oof, that's an oopsie. We're now officially doing this temple backwards, and in order to progress to the next room, we need a small key. To find one, we dive underwater with the Zora mask and swim through this tunnel into the room with the underwater mines, where there is a small key just chilling on a chest on this ledge. With that in hand, we swim back through the same tunnel to return to the original room and unlock the door found here. This leads to a room with a puzzle that requires the mirror shield, which, reminder, we don't have. You might think we could simply bring another bottle of spring water to clear the sunblock at the end of this room and skip the puzzle. I know I certainly did. But if we try dumping spring water out here, absolutely nothing happens. So, what gives? If I turn on the collision viewer, we can immediately see the problem. For this sunblock, and frankly most others in the game, the hitbox that checks for light is slightly elevated off the ground. That means that while these blocks should and would be cleared by spring water, it's impossible to make the spring water collide with the elevated hitbox when poured on the ground. They simply never line up correctly. The only reason we were able to clear the previous sunblock with spring water is that, for whatever reason, that block has a hitbox that extends all the way to the floor, meaning that it intersects with the red hitbox of spring water and therefore can be fooled into thinking it collided with a light source. We're getting deep into technical territory at this point, can you tell? Regardless, we have to pass by the sunblock in this room in order to proceed with the dungeon, and spring water isn't a viable method. Without the mirror shield, the only other item capable of clearing this block is the light arrows, which are found, let me check, directly on the other side of this block. Without the mirror shield or light arrows to clear the block properly, and with spring water unable to glitch the block out of the way, we have no way to clear the block in our playthrough. It's simply impossible. And so normally, our run would end here. We would be forced to backtrack to Ikana Canyon and collect all of the items we skipped earlier in the proper sequence in order to get the mirror shield, then come all the way back here to this room in order to shine light on the block and clear it. But I hope you know me better than that by now. I have one more ace up my sleeve, and it's going to be the hardest glitch yet. When Link gets hit by a bomb explosion, there are 2 to 3 frames where he animates in a strange and sporadic way as he takes damage. By rolling into the bomb so that it explodes during one of Link's iframes, and pulling the hookshot or the bow during this crazy animation, The first-person view of the item we pull will be initiated not on top of Link's model as it's supposed to, but deep below him, under the floor. This is known as a Weirdshot, for obvious reasons, and there are a small handful of niche circumstances in both Ocarina and Majora where positioning the camera under the floor would put something in range of your hookshot that wouldn't have been in range otherwise. Problem is, it's kind of hard to do. Executing a Weirdshot requires inputting several frame-perfect inputs in a row, so in order to perform it reliably, we're going to need to pause buffer, which is pausing the game, waiting just enough time for exactly one frame to pass, and then pausing again, over and over, to advance the game one frame at a time. It's essentially like playing the game in slow motion, and gives you larger windows to input one-frame button commands that would be overly difficult to do in real time. Pause buffering is something that can be done on every version of Majora's Mask, but it's got a kind of rhythm to it that you have to get used to. If you mash the start button too quickly, you'll unpause and repause without advancing any frames at all, and if you wait too long between unpausing and repausing, you could accidentally advance 2 or more frames at once, which could screw up your inputs and cause the trick to fail. If you happen to be playing on either of the Majora's Mask PC ports, both have options available that will pause buffer one frame at a time for you if you choose to enable that feature in the settings. I highly recommend enabling that if you happen to be on one of those two versions of the game. Additionally, issuing the wrong inputs during a Weirdshot also has the potential to crash the English version of Majora's Mask, yet another reason we want to make sure we're doing this correctly. Both Ship 2 and Majora Recomp have fixes for the Weirdshot crash that can be optionally enabled, and I would recommend that you do that as well if you're playing on PC. As for everyone else, as long as you follow the next instructions correctly, you shouldn't crash anyway, but maybe make a save state just in case. Before we start, this room with the sunblock also has infinitely respawning enemies, which are an absolute nuisance when trying to execute what is already a difficult glitch. Equipping the stone mask will make you invisible to them and prevent them from respawning, so we'll be wearing it for the full process. To start, we stand to the side of the sunblock and place a bomb on the ground. Next, we need to quickly get the hookshot in Link's hand, and we do that by pressing the hookshot C button and then immediately holding shield. This will cancel going into first-person view, and will put the item in Link's hand, which is a requirement to Weirdshot. Next, we roll into the bomb as it explodes, so that Link is hit by the explosion during one of the rolls and vulnerability frames. Generally speaking, you want to roll around the 6th or 7th bomb flash. At this point, we need to start pause buffering one frame at a time, so that we can find the right frames to input specific buttons. First, we advance until we see the first frame of the bomb's explosion, then proceed to the second one. We now need to buffer left on the analog stick, and the way to do that is to unpause, only begin holding left once the pause menu is completely invisible, and then repause again after one frame passes. The next frame will be the first frame that shows Link getting hit from the bomb, but as long as this is occurring during an iframe of the roll, it won't interrupt his animations, and we can continue taking actions. On this frame, we release the analog stick and buffer the hookshot C button instead. The next frame should be the second frame of Link getting hit by the bomb. On this frame, we once again press and hold the hookshot C button. Finally, the following frame should be the third frame of Link getting hit by the bomb, and you should see the hookshot beginning to be drawn as well, assuming that we are currently within roll iframes. On this frame, we release everything. Assuming all that was done correctly, the first-person view of the hookshot will be thrown deep under the ground, allowing us to look up through the floor and see the sunblock we are unable to cross, as well as the door to the next room behind it. If I enable the collision viewer once again, we can even see the other geometry of previous rooms in the temple behind us, which currently have their textures and actors unloaded to save memory. But the entire reason for doing this was not to look around at the scenery. Performing a Weirdshot here allows us to see wooden crates that exist on either side of the wall behind the sunblock. By aligning our hookshot cursor with one of these crates, it's possible to hookshot ourselves through the wall and to the area behind the sunblock, skipping past it entirely without ever finding a way to clear it. This is, in my opinion, the hardest trick in this video to learn as a first-timer, but after you've gotten it once and got a feel for it, it becomes like riding a bike, and is easy to perform over and over again. Next, we reach the first mini-boss of Stone Tower, the Garo Master, which is a notoriously difficult boss due to its fast movement and high damage output. Unfortunately for the poor bastard, you now know that he gets absolutely crippled by Deku Nuts. Defeating the boss rewards us with a chest containing the light arrows, meaning we can finally, authentically clear sunblocks, as well as flip the temple itself. If you don't already know, the gimmick with Stone Tower is that you have to complete this dungeon twice. Once right side up, and again upside down. You can flip the dungeon freely by playing the Elegy of Emptiness outside the entrance to move a stone block out of the way, and uncovering a golden scarab that you shoot with a light arrow. We may have the light arrows now, but we still don't have Elegy to hold down the switch and move the block. So once again, we'll have to find another way. Back outside of the dungeon, we move to the right side and perform all the steps of a Weirdshot again, this time using the bow in place of the Hookshot. This places the first-person view of the bow beneath the ground behind the 3 stone blocks that move when switches are pressed. By enabling the collision viewer here, we can see that the hitbox for the golden scarab we're supposed to shoot extends backwards and into the wall a bit. That's that blue circle you see there. We can abuse that fact and fire a light arrow at the center of these 3 stone blocks to hit the scarab from the back side, flipping Stone Tower to its upside down state without ever playing Elegy. Looks like Ben lost once again. As for the upside down variant, we skip the majority of the temple by going through this door on the right, same as before, clearing the sunblock out of the way with light arrows this time, and proceeding through the same tunnel that was once filled with water. We use the Zora mask to take out the hand before it can grab us, and bomb hover straight ahead to the platform with the giant eye enemy. We eliminate it with light arrows to spawn a chest, and loot it for the giant's mask, an item that you may choose to utilize for the upcoming boss fight if you like, but in order to get there, we need to perform another boss key skip. In the next room, we hit the crystal switch in order to spawn a chest on the ceiling, which can be used as a hookshot target to pull ourselves to the higher platform, where we need to once again hookshot a target on the ceiling to advance over these spinning spike traps and reach the boss door on the ground below. We could in theory pass through this door by abusing the remote hookshot glitch once again, but in this case, there's nothing close by to hookshot that would send us forward through the door. Thankfully, there is something weird in this room that we can abuse to force our way through. First, we hookshot back up to the chain link platform, make our way all the way to the wall on the right side, and walk off the edge of the platform before pulling ourselves back up. This aligns links back to be perfectly parallel with the boss door behind us. Next, we need to hold Z to target, but in most cases, Tattle would want to focus on the chest we spawned on the ceiling, which turns Link to face the chest and screws up our positioning. To fix that, we can first press C up to look in first person and stare at the ground before pressing and holding Z, which puts the chest out of Tattle's field of view and will give us a normal Z target as a result. Next, we perform a neutral roll by pressing A without touching the analog stick, which moves Link into the proper position for the next step. We allow ourselves to get hit by the rolling spike trap, then side hop left and immediately pause the game on the first frame of the side hop, which should look like this. And finally, we unpause and hold R to shield so that we block the spike trap with the shield and get sent backwards with incredible speed on the second side hop frame. Do all this correctly, and Link will slip through the crack in between the boss door and the wall, landing behind the door and out of bounds, at which point we can walk to the left to find the invisible loading zone behind the boss door, warping us into the boss arena of Twin Mold without ever needing the boss key. From here, we can either use the Giant's Mask to grow in size and fight Twin Mold with our sword, or shoot arrows into the ends of the boss's tails. Either way, it goes down, and we collect our 7th heart container, as well as our final boss remains. All that's left now is Majora himself. You might expect reaching the top of the clock tower could be problematic now that we've frozen time on the non-existent 4th day, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Remember, the game thinks that the moon has already crashed. That means that the entrance to the top of the clock tower is always open and accessible at any time. We could go there in the middle of the day if we wanted. It doesn't matter at all at this point. When we reach the top, we play Oath to Order to summon the 4 giants we rescued from each of the 4 temples, who catch the moon before it collides with the earth, and make the final showdown with Majora accessible. We enter the moon and talk to the kid wearing the mask to initiate the fight, which is actually somewhat challenging due to everything we skipped. Our arrows and magic are both at a premium, and we obviously don't have access to Fierce Deity, so we instead rely heavily on Zora boomerangs to get to phase 3, then spam Majora with light arrows to keep it stunned and unable to counterattack. Not the easiest Majora fight I've ever had, but no problem compared to all the obstacles we've overcome in this video already. We finish off the boss, eliminating the threat of the falling moon and saving Termina, with over half of the game's items completely and totally skipped. There are so many interesting techniques and skips to discuss that this is officially the longest glitch video on the channel so far, something I did not expect when I started this project. There are obviously a ton of other glitches in Majora's Mask that we didn't talk about in this video as well, so this is by no means an exhaustive list, but I hope it can serve as an entry point for those curious in trying out their first glitch playthrough. Majora's Mask is one of my favorite games of all time, and if you've somehow made it this far in the video without playing it for yourself, maybe this is your sign that it's time to fix that. Thanks for watching. More glitches are on the way.